Welcome to Mad Sports Take, episode 81. I'm already cracking myself up. Your weekly unmuzzled sports talk focusing on the business of sports. I am Ryan Roberts at Rise and Draft on Twitter, the creator of riseanddraft.com, as well as the recruiting analyst at irishbreakdown.com on Sports Illustrated. Joined by my good friend, Mr. David Turner, 18-year scouting vet amongst the NFL, CFL, and three-straight Arena League championships with the Arizona Rattlers. We will be taking you into a broad overview of the 2022 NFL Draft. We are less than a month away from the event officially beginning this year in Las Vegas. As everybody knows, David's roots and my roots are both in the NFL Draft realm, so we are very passionate about this side, and we haven't done too much prospect talk. So I got David to take a little dive into the NFL Draft landscape tonight. We also have Mr. Jonathan Alexander, a defensive back, linebacker out of the University of Charlotte. Very interesting football player. We'll have him on here in a few minutes. Before we get into this, I want to ask you if you could like, share, and subscribe if you are listening to your favorite podcast platform, or if you are listening on the YouTube, Twitter, or Facebook. Make sure to share this podcast. We are continuing to grow on the Believe Podcast Network, and we truly do appreciate all of the support that we've gotten so far. And I have one message from our sponsors. Would you be a parent of a high school athlete trying to make it to the next level? If you answered yes, then why not secure coaching for them from an expert? Here at Maverick Sports Consulting, we work with the high school athletes of all sports to create a strategy for the recruiting process. With limited scholarships given each and every year, having a pointed recruitment plan helps our clients secure their opportunity to play collegiate sports. We focus on your transcripts, your film, leadership, and more to set your goals and create pathways to get to them. Whether you're looking to attend an SEC school or Slippery Rock University, we can help support your efforts to get to those goals in 2022. Contact us at mavericksportsconsulting.com. All right, David, long intro to lead me off with the thing that I ask you each and every week here on the 81st episode. We're quickly coming up on 100, by the way. How are you, my friends?
I'm doing well. You know what? I got a new hat. I'm ready to rock and roll. Went out to the beer and barbecue fest here in Chandler, Arizona this last weekend. So I got my fill of both, and it was a great time. Wonderful event that they had out there. A couple weeks ago, I took Casey to a thing called the Ostrich Festival, where they had ostriches, and you got to little known fact. So the town of Chandler, Arizona, used to allow ostriches to kind of like roam freely, and they had ostrich farms there. And so they have an ostrich festival every year now, which is a ginormous state fair style type thing. It was really fun, great venue, great entertainment, a lot of great concerts and stuff out there. And then like literally a week later, after they shut down the ostrich festival, they throw this beer and barbecue festival where they have all the breweries from Arizona and concerts going on and a bunch of great barbecue joints out there all set up. So it's just been fair season out here and event season in Arizona. The weather is great, and it's my favorite time of the year out here. Plus spring training started, so I got my Oakland A's, my athletic shirt on. I'm ready to rock and roll.
Yeah, I mean, usually I would just kind of skate into our first topic, David, but I need to ask about this ostrich festival. I need to do this.
Yeah.
So how do they celebrate the ostriches? Are they just is it like a kid festival type of thing, or like what do you do at an ostrich festival? I guess is my question.
Well, they have pig races, they have BMX biking, they had what was that, Modern Warrior, or the one where they jump through all the events and all the different obstacles?
Ninja Warrior?
Ninja Warrior stuff set up. They had bouncy houses for the kids. They had carny rides for big kids. They had little ones. They had haunted houses. They had carny games, right? They had all that kind of stuff going. So, I mean, it was just one thing after another. It was just a lot of fun. Then, like I said, they had a huge concert venue set up. I think Nelly came and performed one night. Band Perry was another night. Nelly was in town. Nelly was in town. So yeah, it was just a lot. Like I said, I can't say enough. It was a lot of fun. And with COVID being hit so hard, our kids haven't been able to do stuff for a couple years, as you know. So to get out and do it this year with the kids and open air, event, the last couple weekends, like I said, it's been a lot of fun in Arizona to get it going. So
did you take Casey then, I'm assuming?
Yep, took Casey, went with with a couple of her friends, and met some of my other friends out there. Ran into people out there that you just don't even know are going to show up. But it was like I said, it's been a great time.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. And then you got a beer festival too. You said, right? Beer
Well, the
festival.
beer and barbecue festival
Yeah.
it was like so what they did is they shut down the same area, set up different games, different stuff for kids, but then huge beer gardens, huge concert venue. Gosh, I'm alluding. Oh man, some big country name was the header, big headliner for the beer and barbecue fest. But it was just great. They had country line dancing, pie eating contests, hot dog eating contests. I mean, it was just, and they had people out there, the country western dancers that could teach you how to dance. They had a bunch of just great venues, places to buy stuff from and stuff. Like I got this hat from one of the venues. So yeah, again, it's that time of year in Arizona where the weather's excellent, spring training's going on, and we get a lot of festivals and music festivals going on until about the end of May, and then it's too hot to really do much here. So it's the best time to be down here in Arizona between March and end of May, because you get so much going on.
Hey, I know you're a transplant because you're a California guy by roots, but shouldn't you be a Arizona Diamondbacks fan at this point, man?
Oh goodness, no! Oh goodness, no!
No,
No,
you even think about
no.
it. A second team, nothing.
No, I'm not a big baseball guy. You know that as is. But back home, it was the A's and it was the Giants. But I went to A's. My grandfather was a huge Giants guy because he grew up in San Francisco. Like my grandfather grew up in San Francisco before the Bay Bridge and Golden Gate Bridge were even built. Right? Like he watched those two bridges go up. So I mean, he was a huge Giants guy. But working for the Raiders, we'd always get a bunch of A's tickets. And even before that, like in high school, the BART train in the Bay Area would drive you right up. Like you could literally get dropped off at the Oakland, Alameda County Stadium right there. So my friends and I would just take BART over to games so many times to watch A's plays, go buy $10 bleacher seats and just watch, it was back when McGuire and Canseco and Ricky Henderson were there, and we could go sit
those guys didn't do any steroids, did they?
I cannot confirm or deny any of that at all. I don't know 100%. So, but again, it was fun being out in the outfield, and and back in those days, you could bring a 2 liter of Kool-Aid or Coke and put some Jack in it or something, and and then you just walk into the stadium and sit in the bleachers and enjoy the sun and catch a couple dollar dogs, and you're good to go.
Man, what was in the Kool-Aid? You got some Everclear in there, man?
I don't remember. I never mixed.
So yes, the answer was yes. All right. Well, that was fun, kind of reliving some of David's past and hearing about his weekend, which sounded like a lot of fun. We're gonna be bringing on Jonathan Alexander, who is a defensive back safety coming out of the University of Charlotte. Interesting backstory. I really liked his film this past year. Big, athletic, hybrid type of defender who I'm excited to dig into a little bit. So we're gonna bring Jonathan into the show. Jonathan, how are you, man? Oh, can't hear you, brother.
Might be on mute, Jonathan.
No, still can't hear you.
You can hear me now?
Oh, there you are. There you are. What's up, brother?
Oh, how we doing?
I'm good, man. Good. We hear you loud and clearly now. We appreciate you for taking a little bit of time, man, because I know it's very busy times right now during the draft process and everything that's going on. How about you just give us a little update, man? How's the draft process treating you so far, going through everything?
It's actually going good. I trained out at Yo Market spot down in Tampa, Florida. I spent the week in Louisiana doing go-to movements. It's just like a coding body, things like that. Now I'm back down for work next, and just getting myself together, getting ready mentally, physically to head to Charlotte tomorrow.
Awesome, man. Awesome. And how long have you been training for, man? How many weeks are you on right now?
Man, I could been training right after the season, because during the season I received an invite to the Tropical Bowl, so I started training after the season started. I had Tropical Bowl, and then right after the Tropical Bowl, like the day after, I went straight to Tampa. So I've been training the season.
And down there in Florida, how's the weather? Is it cold yet, or is it storming? What is it?
Nah, it was actually pretty good, pretty windy. pretty hot, raining all the time. It was very tropical. I went to the beach some days. It was like sun and then nowhere, all stuff like that. So it was crazy weather.
I got you. Now, when you went into the decision making to finish your career at Charlotte, what brought you to Charlotte? Like, we know you spent some time at K State and you were at Kilgore. So, can you just take us on that journey a little bit about how you got from Kilgore or to Kilgore, then to K State, and then over down to Charlotte?
Yeah, so I was at Kilgore, and I went to play. And when I got there, uh, we actually had like corners or stuff like that. So we were on the fourth and fifth corner, and so our coach and first team go out, and it was crazy. Like we had one corner go out. I go play corner coach, and he was joking at first, like go ahead, and I heard drop pick. So the rest of the season, they was guys pick. So they just left me at corner, and I ended up at 13th over corner. Chose K State, other schools.
Oh, I think we lost him.
Yep, I think we're having a little bit of technical difficulties, and I'm not sure what's going on. Apologies to that. I think we should probably just move into our first topic of the night because it looks like we're having a little bit of technical issues on that end. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a 2022 NFL draft kind of overarching landscape a little bit. We're going to be covering most of the positions and just trying to give you a couple names at each position. Obviously, over the next few weeks, we're going to be diving a lot more deep into who the prospects are, who should we be taking a deep look at, going just a little more deep into the background of these players that you will see very shortly on Sunday. So, David, I think the only spot to start with, man, is the only position that people care about, right? What position is that, David? What position do people care about?
Offensive line.
Well, I mean, what position? All right, normal people, regular people, people that don't love watching offensive linemen like you and my friends.
Well, the position that everybody's going to want to talk about, which might be the weakest position this year in the draft, is a quarterback position. It's not a position where last year we saw, about 3 or 4 quarterbacks get talked a lot about, Mel Kiper and all them leading up. This year, I think we're going to wind up with struggling with getting quarterbacks at the top of the roster. I mean, there's just nobody that really seemed to jump out and make a run to take that top spot or even a top 10 spot. So, let's talk about overall position and talk about how the depth is light, and then where we might see the first quarterback actually being taken, because though there are needs at the top of the draft order for quarterback, I just don't know if the value in any of these quarterbacks warrant that.
Yeah, I think it's an interesting conversation, man, because like you said, this class at the top is not great. Unfortunately, though, we see teams that just they panic a little bit, they reach at the top of class. I mean, so if we're talking about this class, David, this is just my opinion, right? If you think any different level of it, please fight back on me. That's what this conversation is for. I think that this class actually has some depth in the sense of that there's developmental quarterbacks that like second, third, so on from there. I would be interested in getting on my roster and just seeing how they progress. The unfortunate part of this class, in my opinion, is that there's just not those couple guys at top that usually, like, those are the guys, and then we hit the depth that kind of follows, right? It's absent of depth of the top guys in this class, which makes the depth look a lot worse, because now you're going to put these guys into the first round conversation that just should not be in the first round conversation. Some of those guys that are at the top of the class, Malik Willis out of Liberty, who was down at the Senior Bowl, has had a really good process so far. Probably the only quarterback that I would say is really taken advantage of opportunities so far through the draft process. We got Kenny Pickett out of Pittsburgh, who we had, I don't know if you saw that day, but we had Tony Rasiopi, who is Kenny Pickett's personal trainer on the one time. He's going to be on NFL Network tomorrow, man. We did that. We did that.
The exposure at Map Sports did that. Just so the listeners and everybody know, we had him on about 2.5-3 months ago, talking about quarterback and quarterback play, because he had like 3 of the top quarterbacks that are going into the draft process.
Mm-hmm.
And I swear we had him on in like September. Okay.
Maybe
it was like late September.
Might have been October.
I was going to say late September or early October.
Yeah.
We had him in, and we were talking about it. Now the NFL Network comes and tries to steal our thunder.
Oh man, you need to call your boy
I'm gonna call Tommy
Pelissero.
P.
Yeah,
call Tommy P up. I'm gonna be like, hey,
Tommy
listen,
P.
buddy, no scouting our freaking guests here.
Yeah.
We need a finder's fee, okay? You.
That's really funny, man. And I think that, obviously Tony's done a really good job.
Excellent job. I'm so happy for him. Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And he did obviously he did an excellent job with Kenny Pickett, who's been a guy that's a lot of people have talked about, David, because he's the one with the 8.5-inch hands or whatever, very small-handed guy. But he is assumed to be one of the top quarterbacks drafted this year. We also have Sam.
Whatever team takes him.
Right. We got Sam Howell out of North Carolina, who is a similar size profile to a Malik Willis, although a much different quarterback. He's more of your traditional pocket guy that can run the ball a little bit, but he's going to work ton off play action, do some RPO stuff, really quick, kind of twitchy of a thrower. I kind of like him a little bit, to be honest. I think that he, in the second round,
I didn't like him much during the season when I liked him. Oh, let me tell you, we can rewind some of those tapes.
Yeah, man, get the Kyle Trask takes back out, David. All right,
just saying, we can rewind those takes when I was talking about Sam Howell and this guy over here was like, who?
Rewind him. Oh, I know, dude. I know who Sam Howell is. Stop it. Matt Corral from Ole Miss is another guy, another quick twitch RPO passer, and then Desmond Ridder out of Cincinnati is kind of the tall, long, athletic kid. He ran 4.51 at the combine. Gives me a little pause on Desmond Ridder. He kind of reminds me a little too much of Marcus Mariota. Do with that what you will, Sarah. Do with that what you will. So, David, any of those guys, you don't have to touch on all of them, any of those guys that kind of pops out to you as a player that you do like or a player that you think has potential moving forward?
I think they all I think you nailed it at the beginning of the show. I think they all have potential, but the ceilings are just far off because they're all developmental for different reasons. Okay. And if they're not in the right system fits, I think each one of these kids are going to struggle. It's not like you have a overall Joe Burrow type guy sitting here where it's a no-brainer first round pick. Like these are guys that you have to sit behind other people and you got to be confident that they're going to develop. I personally don't know if I have a first round grade on any of these quarterbacks. I think my highest grade would be a second round grade. On a couple of them, to be fair. There's a couple of them that I have second and top of third round. So that, like you said, right in that area where you'd be like, I would love this kid to back up my quarterback and I won't be scared if he gets in the game. You know what I mean? Mm-hmm. Especially if it's week 8, 9, or 10, where he's got some reps under his belt from preseason and on. So, I think there's some interesting prospects here. Again, I like Howell and I like Carroll. Is it Corral?
Corral. Yep.
And then, Ridder, to me, I think if Ridder winds up behind Watson in Cleveland, they'll do a good job there because that to me would be a good fit for him. That style of offense that they're going to make for Deshaun would be a good fit. Obviously, there's other offenses that are similar that he'd be a good fit. I'm just putting that out because I don't want to go into too much depth here with everything else. But, for me, Howell would be great in the old system where he would be good, honestly, would probably be down at the Chargers. I mean, while he's not as big of a big arm quarterback, right? Mm-hmm. But they work off the play action a lot there. And up in Green Bay and Minnesota, they use that play action, those styles of offenses, even at the Niners, even that quarterback room is getting crowded there. But those style of that offense would be great for him. So to me, I think it's going to be 100%. If the success of this year's quarterbacks fit, it's going to be because that scheme fit was there when the team drafted them. That's why.
Yeah, no, and situation always does dictate success, especially at the quarterback position. But I think especially for this year, it's guys are going to have to be in some good situations to be really successful. Quick note on Matt Corral, David. Here, you want to hear a weird one? So he was kicked out of a high school in California. I think he ended at Oaks Christian for punching Wayne Gretzky's son in the face.
Yes, I know this story. Yes.
Do you know this story?
I know this. Well, yeah, I'm a De La Salle guy, and that was like a big it was a big rival, Southern California rival. So yeah, he punched Wayne Gretzky's son in the face and then he got kicked out of the school and went somewhere else. But yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and then he also believe he was committed to USC, and then he was committed to Florida, and then he ended up at Ole Miss. So very, very strange little backstory of Matt Corral coming out of high school. But yeah, so that's a little bit of the quarterback class. Again, we're going to go a lot deeper. I've watched a lot of bad quarterbacks this cycle, so I can give you some tidbits on a lot of these bad quarterbacks. But running back, let's go on to running back, David, who I think is, in my opinion, again, I think there's a lot of depth to this class. Again, I don't think there's a guy, especially not a guy that you're going to draft top 15, top 20 type of back in this class. But I'm a big fan of Breece Hall out of Iowa State. I think that he has a chance to go in the back end of the first round. Maybe if it's the Buffalo Bills there sitting at 25, who just kind of maybe need that last piece of offense to really kind of spark that running attack. But he's a good football player. Of course, we saw Kenneth Walker Jr. out of Michigan State had this year, transferring over from Wake Forest. 5'9", 212 pound, kind of a densely built guy, really good vision, contact balance. And he also ran 4.38 at the combine. So he's got a little bit of juice to him as well. Breece Hall at 217 pounds also ran 4.39 at the combine, has a 40-inch vert. So we're dealing with a couple really athletic kids. Then we got a bunch of, it's your pick your flavors in my opinion, from there. Those are the two guys that I think project favorably as 3-down type backs at the next level. And then you got guys like Isaiah Spiller from Texas A&M, who's more of a battering ram type of running back. Same deal with Florida running back Dameon Pierce, who's a densely built kid, not the most fleet of foot, but very athletic. And then you got the guys for me that are the satellite backs. They're complementary third down style backs like Kyron Williams out of Notre Dame, who I think is a really talented football player, although he did not test exceptionally well, but he may be the best pass blocking running back in the draft and has really good hands. And then James Cook, the younger brother of Dalvin Cook out of Georgia. He is an explosive kid, a little bit undersized at over only 199 pounds. So he doesn't really project to a high volume guy in this class, but really good hands, really athletic, ran 4.42 at the combine. He's explosive. He's got a little bit of that same makeup of a Dalvin Cook, just not in the same package. So, David, there's a little bit into the running back class, man. I got to say again, though, I think Breece Hall has a chance to go in the first round, man. I think he's got a shot.
Well, and there's a couple you didn't mention, again, because I think there's some really good depth in this class, like Jerome Ford out of Cincinnati.
Former Alabama transfer, Jerome
right.
Ford. Yep.
And he's 5'11". He's about 210 pounds. He ran a 4.46, I believe. And he's a dynamic catcher out of the backfield. He does a great job running between the tackles for a guy who might not be the biggest frame, but at 210, he's still a good sized kid. And, he ran that 4.4. And then you got Rachaad White here at
you love Rachaad White, man.
I like him. Again, he's a bigger back. He's 6'2", he's 212 or something, and he ran a 4.48. So I mean, he's a taller back. He's a guy who I think can play really well in a lot of West Coast systems. I mean, he kind of reminds me of Ricky Running Waters, the way he runs.
Ooh.
So he's a guy that I like a lot. I mean, again, Dameon Pierce, obviously. Kenneth Walker is my heartthrob. I like him. I think that guy is going to be.
Whoa.
I do. I think Kenneth Walker has the it factor, but also Brian Robinson out of Alabama. Now, he ran, he's 6'1", he's 226, but he ran a 4.51. It's fast enough. He's not going to be a game breaker, but again, he can be your thunder to your lightning. If you got a really big light back like a Carolina Panthers, they need a guy like this to add and complement to take some of those hits off of, their guy they got there in McCaffrey, or, someone similar like that. Like maybe the Jets take a Brian Robinson and pair him with the North Carolina kid they got, so there's some people in here that I think, are going to really raise eyebrows when it comes to the draft time. But I think rookie year, while Breece Hall might be the one first-round pick, I really like the way Kenneth Walker plays the game. I like Rachaad White, the way he plays the game. Brian Robinson, James Cook, and Jerome Ford. Like, again, there is a lot of meat and potatoes, I think, that are going to be drafted between rounds 2 and 4 here with these running backs, and they're going to make impacts that people are going to be like, oh my God, why wasn't he picked higher? Kind of impacts. But I think that will also contribute because of the depth of pass rusher, offensive line, receiver this year. Those ones I think are going to get pushed into the first round, where these running backs, they're going to come into the second, third, fourth round, and they're going to make some big time plays this year.
And I had the fortune of the unfortunate of watching Notre Dame lose to the University of Cincinnati last year, but that I did get the fortune of seeing Jerome Ford in person. And he is a densely built, low center of gravity kid who's got some speed to him. I mean, he was a 10-500 meter guy coming out of high school, David. So the kid can scoot a little bit. And like you said, 4.46 in the 40 is a good time for 210 pounds. One guy, if I want to just throw another name out there, because we're going to go to wide receiver next, who David just kind of talked a little bit about, that it's a very deep group that we could talk about a lot of dudes in there. Devontae Price is a kid, though, from Florida International. I just wanted to shout out real quick. 6'1", 210 pounds. Was actually verified at 225 last spring during the junior day when someone went through the school from the NFL. So his weight has fluctuated a little bit, but he goes to the combine at 210 pounds, runs 4.38, and he has really good production at spurts, David. Just played on a very bad Florida International team, but not a ton of tread on those tires. I think he could be a steal kind of later in the draft. Want to move on to wide receivers. I mean, David, I think there's a lot of great receivers, and I'm going to shout out a couple. I know that you were a big fan, though, of the Ohio State kids, Garrett Wilson and Chris Olave. I know they in your daily fantasy, right? They did you well at.
Oh, they did me. They especially Garrett Wilson early when he was cheap. People didn't know about him. Everybody put the over money on the Olave, and I was taking Garrett Wilson, and whoop, we got some paydays.
Sure did, man. Yep. I mean, fantastic player, man. Garrett Wilson is the top wide receiver that I have graded in the cycle. Right around 6 foot, 5'11" and 6'8", I think, 185 pounds, 4.38 at the combine, super smooth route runner. He reminds me a lot of Antonio Brown from a style perspective. Hopefully he's not a nutcase like that guy, but like from a playing perspective. Yeah, from a playing perspective, man, really flexible, fluid route runner, gives you some yak ability. Plays a lot bigger than his list, David. I think he's almost got right around 10-inch hands. So even though he's 5'11" and 6'8", he can win above the rim a little bit and has some contested catch ability. So really like Garrett Wilson a ton. David likes, admittedly, Chris Olave a little more than I do, but he's still a really good player. Ran 4.39 at the combine, good route runner. I just don't think he has the greatest play strength of all time, but still a good football player. The breakout star in college football this year, David, one of them, Jamison Williams out of Alabama, man. Woo! I know he's dealing with the Achilles, obviously, or ACL. I think it was the ACL. Yeah, so torn ACL in the national championship game, man. But that kid was legit going to run like 4.32, 4.33. Like he is an absolute burner, and he makes people look absolutely silly in one-on-one coverage. Like he can run past anybody on the college level. So he's dynamic. Weight isn't awesome, but he's got a little bit of length to him too. He's got over 32-inch arms. He's a 6'1" plus, so he's got a longer frame. I think he almost has like a 76-inch wingspan, 77, somewhere in that ballpark. So pretty long kid, despite being a little bit of a lankier dude. Treylon Burks from Arkansas obviously had a dynamic couple years there for the Razorbacks, 6'2", 225. He has kind of that big slot look to him, but he's really explosive as well, physical. He reminds me a little bit of Demaryius Thomas, the late Demaryius Thomas, that was a really, really good football player for the Denver Broncos. So those are a few of the guys, David. Also, Drake London out of USC is my guy. I'm telling you right now, David.
No, I know you like Drake. Like Drake.
He's my second-ranked wide receiver in the class. I know I'm higher on him than most people. He reminds me a lot of Brandon Marshall, like a lot. And he's 6'4" plus, 220 pounds, incredibly physical, more flexible than you would think for a bigger guy. And he's got kind of that catch point dynamo, but also was he was a basketball player at USC too. So he's got some leaping ability. Anybody else there, David, that jumps out to you outside of the two Ohio State kids? Maybe somebody I mentioned or somebody else that you want to throw out there?
Yeah. 1 second. TikTok guy. We didn't forget Zaire White. We just don't have him in our top. We're just going over overviews tonight. So we will be talking about Zaire White. Trust me. I love that kid. We're just we'll get into position by position a little bit more. This is our first overall show, just hitting all the positions, and we got a time frame. But great call out, because I do like that running back out of Georgia too. So
yeah, man. Zamir White also, I think he was at 215 pounds, ran 4.4 flat. So he was a really
that's what he said.
5-star recruit coming out. Yeah, yep, exactly. Yep.
Yeah, we will be there on him. He just wasn't in our top for our overview tonight, but great call out there, because that was great. Well, I love Dotson out of back to the wide receivers. I love Dotson out of Penn State. I've been talking about him. Sure. You talk about my my DFS teams all year. I had Olave or I had Wilson and I had Dotson. I always tried to afford at least some kind of combination of those guys because they were always going to go off. Metchie, too. John Metchie out of Alabama, one of my personal favorites. I love the kid. I think him and Dotson are very similar in play style. I think Metchie actually has a little bit more big time, big play ability. Metchie almost reminds me of the Hines Ward style receiver, man. Like Metchie was he was tough, gritty. I thought he won a lot of balls and did a lot of great things when he got the ball in his hands early. This is a guy that if you were to put it with your Rams, a Metchie, oh my Lord, Jesus!
We don't need any more wide receivers, man. We're good.
I'm just saying, if they were to draft Metchie, because he's with the injury and stuff, he's probably not going to be high pick. But if you put him there, that could be a nitrous to that offense. I also love Pickens, the Georgia wide receiver, the 6'3" kid. I think he ran a 4.47 or something.
Yeah.
At around 200 pounds. He was battling injuries during his senior year, but I think he came in and made some really good plays, did some really good things there. Where's another one of the taller kids, which I know smaller school. I think it was he South Dakota State, the Watson, Christian Watson?
North Dakota State. Yep.
North Dakota State, 6'5", but he ran like a 4.36 or something at 6'5". So, I mean, when you got that kind of speed and playmaking ability, that's just incredible. And one of our slot guys, we always like the slot guys. Look at the Memphis guy, Calvin Austin, 5'9", 4.32 or something, but he's only 173 pounds. I don't like the little skinny guys. Everybody knows that. I rip on them all the time. But this guy, Calvin Austin, when he was at Memphis, I mean, I watched some of the games. Oh, my Lord, explosive. Oh, my Lord, explosive. Like, he has a different gear, guys. Like, this is not a 4.2. I'm going to say not a 4.42. This is a 4.32. Like, he's got that extra gear to lose people. But Metchie, to me, is one of my heartthrobs in this year's draft. And Dotson, I do love the Ohio State guys. We'll talk a lot about him leading up. Williams from Alabama. But Metchie, I'm always going to give him playtime, and Dotson, too, because – I think those two players, when they get in the right offenses, are going to be big-time players now.
Yeah, Christian Watson's dad's not a fan of me, by the way, David. I don't know if you want to hear that story off air, but
boy, usually I'm the one with the hate mail, not you.
We had a little back and forth on Twitter, man. He's not my biggest fan anymore. That's fine though. I like his son, but I just wasn't ready to say that he was going to be a first-round pick, and he got very upset with me. So moving on to the tight end group, David. Tight end group. A lot of depth if we're talking about guys just could be departmentalized players. I don't see a ton of stars though in this class. I think the top of the class isn't overly impressive, but I really do like Trey McBride out of Colorado State. He reminds me a little bit of Brent Selleck that used to play with the Eagles. Really physical, kind of throwback type of player, but I think that he's going to have some sneaky production on you. And there was a couple years where Brent Selleck had like 70 plus catches, 900 plus yards, and it was just kind of like, wow, I didn't realize he had that many catches or yards. So that's kind of the player that he reminds me of. K-Dot out of Washington's a really physical, big blocker. Little better after the catch than you would think as well. Nearly an 80-inch wingspan, so I think there's something to him. Isaiah Likely from Coastal Carolina, who had a 99-yard touchdown this past season. Not the best showing as far as at his pro day, but 6'4", 245. He kind of fits that big slots, detached tight end type of vibe, and he also has 10-inch hands, so very short-handed receiver. James Mitchell's coming off an injury for Virginia Tech that cost him most of the season, but I really do like him as another kind of H-back movements guy, but I think that he gives you a little something after the catch, and I think he's a better blocker than maybe get you credit for as well. Greg Dulcich from UCLA is another guy out in David's territory.
Yep.
Former wide receiver who also has an 80-plus inch wingspan. Has a little bit of a yak presence as well. So there's a lot of names here. The one guy, David, that I want to talk about for a second, I don't need you to comment on him. I just wanted to throw his name out there. Jalen Weidermeyer was a guy that a lot of people talked about at Texas A&M. David, I don't know if you saw his pro day, man, but he was a shade under 6'5", 253 pounds, and ran a 5.0340, dude. I'm just like, what the hell, brother? You should not have left early if you were running 5 flat in the 40. That is not smart. So he went from a guy that people were talking about maybe being on day 2, where some people are saying he might go undrafted now. So interesting tight end group, David. Trey McBride, though, I mean, if you're a daily fantasy guy, I don't even know if you can play Colorado State, but my man had 90 plus catches this year, 1,100 yards, was a dynamic player, and also did well at the Senior Bowl also.
Yeah, I think you dropped on you fumbled on a couple here, like Jeremy Rucker at Ohio State.
Rucker stinks.
Rucker's going to be a solid player in the league. He's going to be there for a while. He's 6'5", ran a 4.68. And how do you miss on my brother Cole Turner, man? Like Cole Turner.
Hey, man, I got Cole Turner on this.
How do you fumble the ball at the goal line with Cole Turner, my brother from another mother? You know, the man has he's 6'6". He's just a hair under 250. He ran a 4.75 40. You know, this is a kid that, again, went to Nevada, played with Carson Strong, had good numbers. I think if he's with the right team, obviously, and I think there's a lot of teams that actually fit Cole's skill level. So I think him and Rutgers are, and then you talked about my UCLA guy. I thought you weren't going to hit on him. I was like, ooh, I'm going to hit him with this one. I thought you were going to miss on him, but you didn't. You got him. But I think this tight end group, again, rounds 3 through 7, those 4 rounds, you're going to see tight ends go. I don't see a lot of first round or even second round tight ends in this group, being frank. But I think, like you said, the Colorado State kid maybe, and then after that it falls off. Rucker, I could see in the second, but maybe third, probably, being more frank, and then everybody else third and fourth and fifth going through the rest of the draft. But it's still going to be a solid, way to fill your roster out type tight ends and some kids that can develop into some really fun players to watch.
Here's an interesting guy, David. Forgot to mention him. Jelani Woods, Virginia, former Oklahoma State transfer. I think he actually started his career as a quarterback. Excuse me, 6'7", 255 pounds. 34.5-inch arms, 82-inch wingspan, ran 4.61 at the combine at that size. So my man's got a little juice to him, brother. He's got a little bit of juice at that size. So just another name to keep an eye on. Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Another name to keep an eye on. David, do you want to separate offensive line into tackles, guards, centers, or do you just want me to roll through a few of the bigger names?
Let's just talk tackles, guard, centers real quick. We got a little time here.
Yeah,
we got a little time. Yeah.
We got some time. So tackles, the top offensive tackles in the class. I think it's a good class. I think that the class falls off a little bit past 6 or 7. Like if you're straying past 6 or 7, in my opinion, you're going to start to get just guys that are more developmental than maybe early on starters or starters within the first couple of years with their prospective teams. But Evan Neal,
I'll be interested to see where you put the cutoff on this. I'm kind of interested on that.
Okay. All right. Well, here, let's roll it through. I'm gonna talk about the guys that I think have starting caliber traits within the first 2 years of their professional careers. First one's Evan Neal out of Alabama, 6'7" plus, 337, 34-inch arms, 83-inch wingspan. He's been that guy for Alabama over the last 3 years. Has started literally at right guard, right tackle, and left tackle this past season for Alabama, and has an incredible frame. Ika Mekwonu, who might be the first offensive tackle off the board, depending on who you ask, out of NC State, 6'4", 34-inch arms, 84.25-inch wingspan, huge wingspan, 10.25-inch hands. He has nice feet. I honestly think that he may be better working inside long term, but I know that somebody's going to draft him to play offensive tackle. So he's going to be a starter early on in his career. Best pass blocker in this class, in my opinion, of any offensive tackle would be Charles Cross from Mississippi State. 6'5", 310, 34.5-inch arms, 81-inch wingspan, was a 5-star recruit coming to Mississippi State, left just as a redshirt sophomore, but he's an advanced pass protector. Needs some work in the run game because he played under Mike Leach and the air raid where he just didn't run block a ton. Like, let's just call it what it is. But he has the traits.
And he's a little light. He's a little light. He's got a
310.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. He's got to eat some pizza.
Yeah, well, he'll be fine. He'll be fine.
We'll send mama down there. She'll feed him pasta. He'll grow.
He has some improving core strength to him, though. He got a lot stronger this past year, so I think that he has upside in the run game. But definitely, you're drafting him based upon what he can do as a pass protector. And he ran 4.95 at the combine as well, so he's a very gifted athlete. I think he had mid 30-inch vertical as well, like 34, 35 inches. So it's a good athlete. The guy that everybody left the Senior Bowl going like, holy smokes, who's this dude? Trevor Penning out of Northern Iowa. Of course, last year, David, we had Spencer Brown on, who was the other offensive tackle at Northern Iowa. And Trevor Penning might get drafted even earlier than Spencer Brown did. There's some people think that he might sneak into the first round, at least a second round type of player. I'm a little hesitant on Trevor Penning as a left tackle. I think he's more of a right tackle type because I think he's a little tight, a little stiff but physical, explosive blocker. He reminds me a lot of Zach Strief that used to play with the New Orleans Saints, the starting right tackle for a long time.
Yeah, a lot of years.
Yeah, man. It's really good right tackle, super physical. And Penning tested as a really good athlete, but I think he is a really good athlete in a linear perspective, but I just don't think he's incredibly quick twitch, and I don't think he's a guy that's incredibly flexible as a pass blocker. So I view him more as a right tackle, but I do view him as a starting right tackle. So where am I at? I'm a 4 there, right? Tyler Smith is another guy that I like out of Tulsa. He is a little more on that cusp of developmental, but also starter early on. I would rather you sit him for a year and just kind of let him develop a little further, but the tools are outstanding, David. 6'5", 325. Again, all these guys seem like they have 34-inch arms, man. And he's got 34-inch arms, over an 80-foot wingspan. And he is one of the youngest players in this class, was born in 2001. So he's going to be just 20 years old on draft day, I believe, or he's just going to turn 21 on draft day. So he's a really talented kid, may have some of the highest upside at the position, in my opinion. A guy that I love, David, that might be my favorite dude in this class that a lot of people think is a guard. I think he's a tackle, though. I really do. Is Mr. Sean Ryan out of UCLA. Got to throw out your UCLA guys again, man. So my guy, Sean Ryan, 6'5", David, 325 pounds, somewhere in that ballpark. He's 320 at the combine. Shorter arm length, but he still has right around an 80-inch wingspan, 11 and an 1/8-inch hands, David. This kid was a 64-plus foot shot putter in high school. Absolute absurd power in that lower half, man. He can create some silly power. He's flexible. He's got great core strength, good movement skills. I think the upside with Sean Ryan is fantastic. He's one of my top-ranked offensive linemen just in general. I feel like I'm a little bit higher on him than some people. And then he went to the combine, Dave. You want to talk about explosion? 33.5-inch vertical for a guy that is 320 pounds. So that's 6 guys. I'm going to keep it at 6, not stretch it to 7. Those are 6 guys that I think have starting caliber traits at offensive tackle early on in their careers.
Yeah, and it's interesting. There's a couple that you didn't say, and I was curious if you were going to say them or not. Okay, that's why I was kind of. Well, Nicholas Petty-Free out of
Ohio. I'm not a Freire fan, man. I think there's an absence of power there, and I think he's a little bit of an overstated athlete. It's just my opinion, though.
And again, I think he's a guy that has an ability to grow into. And again, I'm not saying first round pick here. I'm saying he has an ability with where he's at 6'5". I think he ran a 5'1", 440, and he's like 315, almost 320 pounds doing it. He's a guy that is right on that cusp that I think would be very interesting in some of these offenses. Athletic offensive lineman that I was surprised with his numbers when they came in was actually Abraham Lucas out of Washington State. Now, this is a kid who's 6'7", ran a 4.92 40 at 332 pounds. Now, 332 pounds, you'd go, ooh, that's a big dude, but he's 6'7". So it's spread over a very big frame. He almost looks linear. So you can imagine this is a guy who could probably play at 340 pounds and not look or feel heavy. And he came out and ran a 4.92 40. So, I watch Washington State games. I know it's kind of late for you on the East Coast to watch them, but he was a guy that no shit about it. He was a guy that I literally picked out for my agent to go after because I was like watching him. I'm like, this is a guy that could sneak in there, man. Like I was like, I don't know if he's a first round guy or a second round. I said, I think I see him between rounds 3 and 7. That's where I told my agent when I was watching tape before I could break it in. And then when I saw the numbers come in, I'm like, this guy's probably a solid 3rd round pick right here that could play at the next level and might surprise some people. Once he develops, he's just got. I think you got to get his pad level down a little bit, being that 6'7", tall. But he's got some interesting tools to him a lot, and I thought that was an interesting guy too. But I got to see more of him, I'm sure, than you did because I watched it out here. And then I like the kid out of Arizona State again, Kelvin Deutsch. Yeah. He's light in the ass. He's only 300 pounds at 6'7", so he's got to eat some pasta. But he's another athletic guy who ran a 4.89 40. So, I like that. And with the passing offenses and these edge rushers that are taking wide 9 out to wide 10 almost these days, you got to have guys that have foot quickness that can have range in their pass sets. So those were two guys that, when I looked at them, they're West Coast guys, and I was like, I really like what I saw in them. And I think they have a potential to develop. I love what you said about Neal and Cross, obviously at the top of the class and tackle group. And Cross, like you said, I think he can go to a team and start right away. And with a good offensive line coach and a good nutritionist, he can get better really quick, really fast. Neal, my one concern is obviously that he's so heavy at 350.
Well, he lost a little bit. He was 337 at the combine, so he's lost some weights.
Right. But I'm just saying, like, he usually plays a little heavier, and that's always a concern for me. You've worked with me enough to know when they're that big, they usually like being that big. And when your adult weight hits, because these are young kids, are 22, 23 years old, when your adult weight hits after 26 and your metabolism slows down a little bit, these kind of guys, they balloon up. So I kind of worry about his weight. But other than that, I mean, he's shown he can do it at a very high level. He's blocked some very big talent over his career. He's very versatile. I'm not trying to take away from him. I'm just saying, if you're talking first round pick, that's the one little thing I got concerned about with him.
That's fair. That's fair, man. And I will give a shout out to Abraham Lucas, who I'm a little lukewarm on still, but I think he's one of the better pass blockers in the class. I think he frames as well as anybody in the class. He's just another guy that I don't think the power profile is great right now. And he worked under Mike Leach for a while, and then Nick Rolovich was kind of the same system. So he doesn't run block at all either. So
right,
a little bit of projection.
It's a little bit of a projection. That's what I'm saying. If he's in the third round, I think he's a solid third round pick. You work with this guy, and I think you could have a heck of a player in a year from now. Really can.
Yeah, I've actually heard some things, David, that teams may like him in the second rounds potentially. So
it won't surprise me if they do, because of his size and his frame and his pass block. But again, I as a scout, I gotta say, for me, with the way this draft is going to line out, I think that tackle class, he's a third round pick. This is me.
And I like the mention of Kellen Diesch. I really do. I actually talked about him a couple weeks ago on the Offensive Tackle Show for the Believe in NFL Draft Prospect podcast as a sleeper in the class, because I think that he is a really nice athlete at 6'7", 300 pounds, like you said. I mean, he ran 4.89, and he just had a really nice workout in general. He started out at Texas A&M for the first few years. Then he grad transferred over to Arizona State and had a really nice season for them, one of the highest graded pass blockers in the country this past year. The only thing that gives me pause with him, David, and I would just love your comment on it, obviously doing what you did for so long, only 32.25 inch arms, man. That was like, ugh, that's really short arms. So, but that the trouble is for me is the fact that, like, okay, short arms, obviously you're going to start thinking like move inside, but then he's a guy that's a little lighter, like you said, right? So like, so he gets a little tough, but I do think he has developmental potential. I do think that he can get by with the shorter arms, because I think that his foot quickness is fantastic. So that's kind of where he overcompensates for maybe the lack of length.
And again, if you go to a team that does the outside zone style rushing and does, play action, I think he can survive. Now, I don't know if it's a left tackle survival, but again, there's a place for this kid to play in the NFL.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree completely there. Again, I think that his foot quickness overcompensates for the lack of length on the perimeter. So moving on to guards, David, this is one of my favorite classes, man. I think it's weird to talk about a little bit, but a lot of really good guards in this class, man. Like crazy amount of depth in this year's class, in my opinion, especially if you project, like if some people project Sean Ryan that I talked about from UCLA in a guard, if you project him at offensive guard and a couple of these other guys I'm going to talk about who have played tackle at some points, then we're talking about a really, really good class. I think it starts with Kenyon Green out of Texas A&M. For me, man, like 6'4", 315 this past year, David. And he has 34-inch arms, actually. So, like, it's got a little bit of length to him. 34 and an eighth, actually. 83 and 3/8 inch wingspan. But I think he's a guard. I think he is, just from a play style perspective. 6'4", 325. David, this past year, he started a game at every position outside of center. So literally started at 4 different positions for the Texas A&M offensive line. I think his best work came at left guard, though, especially in 2020 when he was a every game starter at left guard. Absolutely dominant player, man. Like, I think he's a top 10 to 15 player in this class. Will he go top 10 or 15? Maybe not, just because guards tend to get pushed back a little bit. But I do think that he's that quality of player in this year's class. The best player.
Well, hold on that point.
Yep.
Look who's drafting. And we don't have quarterbacks. We don't have quarterbacks at the top of the draft, right? Mm-hmm. So look who's drafting. You got Jacksonville 1, Detroit 2, Houston 3, Jets 4, Giants 5, Carolina 6, Giants again at 7, Atlanta at 8, and Seattle at 9, and Seattle at 10. What are things that people need up there? All those teams, almost every one of those teams, need offensive line help.
Sure.
So the guard position you could see, because this year's draft class, and I know we got to speed up the process because we're just getting through offense here.
You're fine.
But the draft class for offensive line is worthy enough of some of these conversations. So that guard position might get valued in these top 10 to 15, because even outside that, we got Washington, Minnesota, Houston again, they're at 13, Baltimore at 14, and then you got Philly coming in at 15. And then right after them you got Philly again at 16. So in the top 20 you have plenty of teams excuse me, you have plenty of teams in this top 20 that need offensive line help. So you might see a record set in the first round for offensive line this year because of the depth that it has and the lack of quarterback presence.
Well, I just for a little bit of context, I actually have a mock draft that's coming out tomorrow on riseanddraft.com, Dave, and I gave Kenyon Green actually number 17 to the Los Angeles Chargers because they need help both at right tackle and inside of guard. So pick your poison, man. He can play a couple different spots potentially. I still think he's better inside of guard, but I think he can play offensive tackle in a pinch. Zion Johnson for Boston College is another fun guy. And we might only get through the offensive guys this week. We might pick up on defense because we're already 52 minutes in, David, because you got
we're excited. We're excited about the offense.
I know, man. I know. Zion Johnson was one of the most impressive players at the Senior Bowl. A shade under 6'3", 310 pounds. Former Davidson transfer, ended up obviously at Boston College. 34-inch arms. Again, David, like all these do have 34-inch arms, man. Even these interior players, it's nuts. Some guys also prefer him at center. So he never played center in college, but he was a full-time guard. I think he's going to be a really good guard. Cole Strange from the University of Chattanooga is another guy, Tennessee Chattanooga, that has played every start in his college career was at guard, but then he was at center during the Senior Bowl, and he had a really nice Senior Bowl week. He kind of reminds me a little bit, David, of our boy from last year, Quinn Miners, right, who had never played center.
Belly boy,
man. He just texted me the other day, by the way, and he went. Guy. Yeah, man, he's awesome, and he went to the Senior Bowl, had never played center before, and he ended up having a great week at center. So I think of Cole Strange a little bit similarly. Maybe one of my favorite guards in this draft, David, that had never actually played guard in college, man. Here's our tackle convert. Darian Kennard from Kentucky. David, you ready for this one? 6'5", 320, although he played at 340 plus at Kentucky, so don't let that weight fool you. He lost a little bit of weight to test at the combine. 11 1/4-inch hands, 35-inch arms, David. 35-inch arms, 83 1/4. I have a player comp, my friend. I think a player that you probably may have been around at one point, okay? Maybe not. I don't know if it overlapped. He reminds me a lot of Kelechi Osemele, that played Baltimore, then spent some time obviously with the Oakland Raiders there at the end of his career, was an Iowa State offensive tackle, but his transition was just much better inside at guard at the next level, and he became a Pro Bowl level guard for the Baltimore Ravens and Oakland Raiders. So Kelechi Osemele comp.
Dude, hold on. My boy on TikTok. This is my boy on TikTok. Angel 49 Blessing. Atlanta Falcons need a whole new team.
Not wrong, sir.
I love him.
Tell Angel, if you can hear me, my friend, if you can hear me there on TikTok, all I have to say is they were a very easy team to mock draft for because there's a lot of different players that would fit, and you can't really argue against any of them. So
yeah, exactly.
David, I don't know if you ever like I'm just looking at this, man, and again, I mentioned this a couple of times. A lot of these guards have crazy arm length, man. Like 34. I just mentioned a 35er. Jamari Sawyer from Georgia, who's played some at tackle as well, as 33 and 5/8-inch arms.
I was waiting for you to mention Sawyer because I like him. He's a 320-pound guy, 6'4".
Yeah.
Not the slightest of foot. He's more of a hogmala, as we would call him, right? A hogmala. Ran, I think, a 5'4", 40, whatever. But he comes off the ball, played at a high level. He's a powerful run blocker. He's going to move people on that 3rd and 1 at the goal line situations. You're going to run behind this guy. He might be a really good right guard fit for some team to solidify that position for him. I like him. I like him a lot. Another guy that I was looking at this draft period was Ed Ingram at LSU.
Yeah.
Ed Ingram, he's 6'3", about 320, ran a 5.02 40.
He's got 33 and 5-inch arms too, so he's got a little bit of length to him too.
Right, and to me, that's a left guard type situation there. He'd be perfect fit for a lot of these West Coast style offenses. And another guy that we didn't mention yet that I like is a kid out of Oklahoma, Marquez Hayes.
Hayes, yeah. Yep.
Again, hogmala. Big kid, 6'5", 220 or 325, moving people off the line, and not going to be run athletic type guy, but he's a good. And the Tennessee, Cade Mays.
He's also sorry to cut you off real quick. Marquise Hayes, another guy, 34 and 7/8 inch arms, man. Like these, I've never seen anything like this, man. All these guards have crazy arm length.
That's what I'm saying. And then Cade Hayes is 6'6", 320, ran a 5.2 440. But he's a move guy. He can pull, he can trap. I've heard really good things about his character in the locker room. So, I think, like you said, the interior offensive line, we haven't even gotten to centers yet, but the interior offensive line, the depth at tackle, you're going to see, I think, a record number of offensive linemen go in the top 2 rounds this year. A, it's something that every team needs, and B, this class has them. They have them.
Yep. Yeah, you just mentioned Cade Mays, another guy, 34 and 1/8 inch arms, man. Like, I just feel like all these dudes have 33 or 34 plus inch arms. It's crazy. One of the guys, too, that I just wanted to mention real quick was a little bit of shorter arms, but he's a true guard anyway. Lecitus Smith from Virginia Tech's a guy that I've been a big fan of. We're going to talk about centers. Before we do, have you secured any sponsorships with your name, image, and likeness yet? No. What's keeping you from earning money or gaining products today? Probably access to companies. Maverick Sports Consulting can connect those dots for you. We believe in the power of athletes making a living off of their own likeness and going to college. If it's simply that you don't have access to companies, don't let that keep you from being successful. Contact us at Maverick Sports Consulting so we can help you navigate your path to gaining corporate sponsorships for your collegiate career. And athletes' earning potential is limited. Why wait until tomorrow to start earning today? It doesn't matter what sport you play. We can help our clients achieve their goals. Just contact us at Maverick Sports Consulting. TikTok, the clock is ticking. All right, David, saving the worst for last, actually, the center position in the 2022 NFL draft. My God, man, I'm going to roll through a few names, but I will tell you this. I was excited about this class in the summer, and then Jared Patterson from Notre Dame went back to school. Ricky Stromberg Jr. from Arkansas both went back to school as well. So I'm like, that depleted near the top of the class. One guy, though, that is a first-round caliber player and one of the better wide zone centers that I've ever evaluated is Tyler Linderbaum out of Iowa. Started his Iowa career as a defensive lineman, has now shifted over to center and has been the best center in college football over the last 2 years. He's a smaller framed guy, 6'2" plus, 296 pounds, but a gifted athlete, David. Really good mover. Compares favorably, in my opinion, to Jason Kelsey. He is a scheme-specific player. Like, he's going to need to fall into a wide zone system because a gap power team is just not going to value him that high. But if he falls into the right situation, he could be one of the better centers in the NFL, but it is going to be scheme dependent. A little bit about Tyler Linderbaum. He is easily the best player in this class at center. Like, easily. After that, falls off the table, man. Awful class. I do like Nick Ford from Utah a little bit. He's out there west near you, sort of. He has played every single position on the offensive line, David. Literally started at left tackle, left guard, right guard, and at center. I think he projects favorably at center, 6 foot plus, 320 pounds. I like him a bunch as a developmental center. Then you got guys like Cameron Jurgens out of Nebraska, who's another movement-based guy. Just don't see any power profile with him, man. He's a dirty blocker. Like, there's some stuff to like, but like, just can't see it. Alec Lindstrom, the younger brother of Chris Lindstrom, former first-round pick by the Atlanta Falcons, center coming out of Boston College. Kind of the same story, man. Like, he can move pretty well, but he's a little bit undersized and he's a little bit of a lacking of power. So I'm not a huge fan there. The one guy, let me mention two guys and I'll mention a sleeper. Donovan West, who I don't know if you've gotten to know out there, David, Arizona State. He's another kid that I think has really good foot quickness, and I think he's got good hands for the position. Another guy, though, a little scheme dependent. He has to hit a wide zone system, and he has to. But if he does, I think he has some starter upside on the interior. And then the last guy, before I hit you with a little bit of a sleeper in this class, is Dylan Parham from Memphis. For my money, he's probably going to be the second center off the board. I think that this is a guy somewhere in the second round that could get drafted. Another guy, really good athlete for the position. My sleeper, David. Tackle that also had played center, which is a weird combination. Left tackle, center during his Wake Forest career. Zach Tom. He's interesting, man. He's really interesting. 6'4", 304 pounds, a little light, 33.25-inch arms, over an 80-inch wingspan. But I really like his movement skills. He had the best tape this year, in my opinion, playing against Jermaine Johnson, the defensive end out of Florida State, who's a projected first-round pick, and he did it at left tackle, playing as an undersized player. I think he has starter traits on the interior. I would be not shocked if he sneaks into the latter part of day 2, maybe somewhere in the third round, and I think he's got starter upside. But David, overall, man, it's just not a great class, man. Not a great class.
Like I said, I agree with you again. This is rare that I agree with you so much tonight, but I do agree with you that this is going to be a scheme fit type offensive line systems for these centers. Whereas we were raving about the depth at tackle and at guard. Some of those guards are going to get pushed into play center because it's just not that deep here. But there are a few players that I think you missed on as far as like mentioning. But again, it's going to be scheme fit, right? People have to find the scheme to fit it. I think Chris Owens out of Alabama, 6'3", 205 pound or 305 pound center who played at a high level, done a lot of good things at a big time school, is going to be a guy that you'll see come off the board in round 3, and he'll contribute and play right away. I like a kid out of Michigan State, Matt Allen. Matt, to me, when I would watch Walker and watch that offensive line play, I thought he did some really good things, getting them lined up, doing good calls on the play. And he's one of the bigger centers at 315 and 6'3". He ran a 5.28 40. So, again, I think he's got skills. He gets with the right team. He could go a long way going forward with his career. And then the last one I would mention, I think, here would be this. He's got a great name. Luke
Wattenberg.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now Luke Wattenberg, 6'5". Again, he's just under 300, so he's got to gain a little weight. He ran a 5.2 40, but Luke Wattenberg to me has good strength, good movement, good core strength too, and his capabilities and his punch are there. So a West Coast guy out of Washington, who again I get to watch a lot of out here. I kind of liked watching him play ball this year too.
He's no Brett Heggie, right? Heggie?
No, he's no Heggie, but Heggie's a giant now, baby.
Yeah. It all worked out. It all went full circle. So that's a little bit of the overview of the offensive class. Want to thank everybody again for taking a peek at the show tonight. Mavs Sports Take episode 81. Make sure you like, share, subscribe to the podcast if you're listening on one of the many amazing podcast platforms. We'll be covering the defensive class next week. Next week, we'll be talking defensive prospects. It's going to be a lot of fun here again, especially winding down only a few weeks from the NFL draft. Going to let David Turner leave us with a final thought. I know it's crazy times, man, trying to fit in these last few evaluations, getting everything going. I'm in the recruiting world now too, which is extra hectic, even more hectic the NFL draft circuit. So David, last word of the night, man. What's on your mind?
Well, I want, and again, I'm not trying to jump on something here, but I think it's important for me to say something because of what happened here. I'm going to talk about the slap that's been heard around the world, in the recent days. When you physically assault somebody over words, you have to think about yourself and your personality. As Ryan knows, there's a few things that I live my life by, which my 3 core values are important to me, which is passion, intelligence, and integrity. If my wife got verbally assaulted, everybody who knows me knows that person who verbally assaulted my wife would get assaulted back verbally. But they would give an opportunity. I would give them an opportunity to apologize to my wife. So if Will Smith would have walked up on stage and chested out Chris Brown and said, listen, apologize to her right now. That's some bull pocky right there. You shouldn't have said that. That would have been far enough. And I'm sure Chris Rock would have said, okay, I'm sorry. My bad. That was out of line. But why not wait for a commercial break? Why did you have to make the center of attention that moment and ruin the Oscars, a show in which now no one's talked about the winners or the losers from the night. No one talked about the great acting job that you did in King Richard and won the award for that. Everybody just talked about this slap. That was a selfish moment. And anybody who knows me, who I train young men and women how to be professional, that was not a professional move. The joke was tasteless and discolorful, yes. But for 10 years, the hosts have come out and roasted people in the audience. You can watch 10 years of Oscars and people get roasted in the front row. That one should not have said that. That should not have left Chris Rock's mouth because of the medical condition Jada is fighting and living with, okay? Not defending that at all. But I will not defend the slap that was heard around the world either, because the reality is you want to pop up out of your seat and march up on stage after you laughed at the joke. Like, you laughed at the joke and then you looked at your wife and she didn't laugh. And that's what motivated you to pop up. Great. Good for you. You know what I mean? I personally would have waited for a freaking commercial break and went and found him and said, listen, you need to go over and apologize. Jada took that the wrong way. And that's bullshit. Either you do it now or I'll meet you in the parking lot after the show. But not giving a man to respond with an apology and just marching up on stage and slapping him like that, to me, was not appropriate and was not classy and was not professional. And you're Will Smith, man. You're one of the biggest names in show business right now. You could walk up on stage, chest him up, lean into his ear and be like, you need to publicly apologize to my wife for what you just said, because that was offensive. And then walk off the stage and go back to your seat, and he would have done it. And the rest of the night would have just been about that moment and move on. And the winners of all the categories would have got the press that they deserve for all the hard work. Making it his moment, to me, was a very selfish act. And that's where I have a problem with it. Okay. And if anybody else wants to talk to me about it, find me at Mav_sports on social media. Dial me up, whatever you want. We can talk about it. But as a man who is very protective over his family and a very protective man as I am, you got to know the moment. You got to know the moment you're in. You got to stay focused where you're at. And that's not saying don't defend your wife. But he did not physically assault his wife. He verbally said a bad joke. When someone says a bad joke, a tasteless joke, or distasteful joke, give him an opportunity to just say, hey, that was wrong. What you just said, apologize. Give him a chance to make up and make amends for what they said. Don't just pop up and slap someone. I stayed off social media about it. I didn't say nothing about it, but here tonight, because of what we do at Maverick Sports Consulting, how we train people to be professional, how we work with everybody, I wanted to take a moment here at the end of the show and put my 2 cents in on it because, again, you're Will Smith. You're one of the big names. You're leading our young men on how to work with each other, how to handle conflict resolutions like this. And now any family that was watching the Oscars, that's what the young men and women saw, that you thought it was okay to interrupt an award show to walk up on stage and slap a man for something he said.
Yep. It was a very interesting and, like you said, tasteless moments at the Oscars. David always spitting the truth, man. And hey, if you want to argue with him, go at Mav_sports. Don't go at Rise and Draft. Right? Follow us. Give us a like. Give us a subscription. A rating would be very much appreciated. We'll see you all next week. Same time, same place, talking some defensive prospects.